Welcome to the Front Line with FPM, where we talk about California politics, homeschool freedom, parental rights, and the family. I'm your host, Nathan Pierce, and thanks for joining us today. Let's jump right in and see what's going on here on the Front Line. Well, hi folks, it's Friday, what is it? It's the 25th already, 26th of May, and we are in the thick of legislation still. As you know, it's been a busy year, and it is not really letting up. We have dealt with all kinds of legislation so far this year, as you know. Today I'm going to give updates on AB 659, the Hpv Vaccine Bill, AB 816, the medical consent to care for minors, AB 665, the minor consent to mental health care bills. So we're going to talk a little bit about those, but as we have had a number of victories in legislation this year already, which is excellent. I'm super grateful for that. We still have more to deal with. So let's jump right into that. After legislation, we're going to talk a little bit about Homeschool Freedom Day in San Diego, which we just had. So I'll give you a recap on that, as well as some other resources that are available and coming up soon. So jumping into legislation, I want to just start with AB 659, which is that Hpv Vaccine Bill. It is continuing to move through the legislature, and it was just amended this last week. And the amendment is a good direction. There's still a number of issues with the bill that people are working on, and I think that it's certainly not something I would support. But I am grateful for them amending a portion of it. And so I have a positive word about this bill being less bad than it was, but I also have cautions to caution you with. And so 659, that's the bill that requires Hpv vaccines for kids in 8th grade, entering the 8th grade. It requires schools to give a notice to parents saying they have to have the Hpv vaccine prior to enrollment in the 8th grade. However, there is no means of enforcement for this bill, for the Hpv vaccine in the high school arena. However, there is another portion of the bill that deals with colleges and requiring the Hpv vaccine for colleges if you want to join enroll in one of the California state colleges. So definitely something to be aware of that is dealt with in this bill is the college aspect of it. I'm not dealing with that. I think other people are definitely dealing with that. But as far as education in the K through 12 arena, I obviously have concerns about any time that the government says we are going to force this medical decision on you. We don't think that you're capable of making this decision on your own. And like any medical decision, those medical decisions should remain with the individual that's being impacted, or if it's a minor being in question, we're talking about a person that is under the authority of their parent still, or guardian. And in that case, it's the responsibility of the parent or guardian to make decisions in the best interest of their child. And that has long been the standard for making decisions on medical care and other things. And so we need to recognize that AB 659 goes against that principle. And so it's not a good direction for the state. We do have to acknowledge that they have accepted an amendment to exclude, in order to make AB 659 consistent with other vaccine requirements for K-12 education, they have excluded private home-based private school students from the requirements of AB 659. So what that means is that just like private homeschool students are exempted from the other vaccine requirements for schools, this bill also would make it so that the HPV vaccine is required for students in schools except for privately homeschooled students. So that is a step in, I guess, the right direction for protecting the rights of private homeschool families. However, it is a big step towards invasive government takeover of medical decisions for the family and for minors. So it's something that's very concerning. It's still a bill that does go after parental rights. It goes after human rights, people being allowed to make their own medical decisions, and saying, no, it's the government's responsibility to make medical decisions on behalf of California citizens. And that is a wrong way to go about making government policy. And so AB 659 is still definitely problematic, and it's going in the wrong direction. And I would encourage you to voice your opinion to your state legislator on this. Now, AB 659 has come out of the Health Committee in the Assembly and will be moving through other parts of the legislative process as it goes through. So remember, every time that it goes up against a vote, it's an opportunity for a bill to either be amended or to die or to get passed to the next level. So keep that in your mind as you consider what bills to take action on. This is definitely one that merits your attention, and so we'll definitely include a link to what specific action would be appropriate at this time. So next is our next bill, AB 816, has to do with medical care and minors being able to make their own decisions. 816 is by Haney, and it would authorize a minor who is 16 years old or older to consent to the replacement narcotic abuse treatment that uses these medicines without the parent or guardian's consent. And so it's essentially allowing minors to get access to medications without their parents' knowledge or consent in dealing with drug addictions and abuse of drugs. So this bill is problematic because, again, it goes after parental rights and allows the government to insert itself into the relationship between a parent and their child so that a child can get access to certain medications without their parents knowing about it. It's a dangerous precedent. It's not. It's a dangerous precedent for future decisions that the government could make intruding into our lives. And I want to mention a couple of things on that in a second. But by itself, it's also a problem. It's immediately going to have an impact on relationships in families where children should be engaged with their parents on these topics, and parents should be engaged with their children on these topics, and they should make these decisions together. Parents should be in the driver's seat on making these medical decisions for their children, and I think that this bill by itself will have an immediate negative impact on our state. Now, I mentioned the future as well, and I think it sets a dangerous precedent for those other medical-related services that a child could maybe in the future, if something else gets added on, this could easily, very easily, pave the way for many other medical services to be made available to minors without their parents' knowledge or consent. And that's a very dangerous thing as well. So this bill, AB 816, is a dangerous threat to the family, to parental rights, to the relationship between parents and children. Then lastly, I want to mention AB 665, which deals with mental health services, dealing with children down to the age of 12 being allowed to consent to care without their parents' knowledge. And this bill circumvents parents and guardians when making decisions about a child's mental health care services and allows a minor to consent to care without their parents' knowledge or consent. And it's again, it's the same kind of thing, only it even goes to a lower age. Now, these are both really dangerous precedents for parental rights and for making medical decisions for children. What does this have to do with homeschooling? Now, if you recall, homeschool, the basic principles, the basic pillars on which homeschooling stands is the principles of parental rights and the principles of religious freedom. Those are the basic principles that have defended and protected in court the right of parents to homeschool. And this is going at the very base of one of these pillars, and that is the parental rights issue. And so we need to be very aware about how interconnected these bills are with the issue of homeschooling and the freedom that holds up the freedom to homeschool, and that is parental rights and religious freedom. So we need to be vigilant to protect these rights of parents, but also the authority of that sphere of government, the parents, the family, and really that portion of society. It's important to remember that even since the beginning of our nation and before, the recognized core or center building block for society has been individual families. And that is essential to maintain that in order for us to keep our freedom in all areas of life. And so the more our family is undermined in our society today, the more we'll see our freedoms getting frittered away. We will see our freedoms being deleted left and right as we allow the family to be undermined in its authority. So be very aware of that. And again, we will definitely put in some links of what are the next steps for these three bills: AB 659, AB 816, and AB 665. So moving on from that, I want to touch on a couple of things. One is the Hfd Recap. That is our Homeschool Freedom Day San Diego, which took place on the 20th of this month. And it was a very successful event. I'm really grateful for the folks that put their energies into making this event happen, for all the sponsors that made it happen. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the event itself and how smoothly that it ran, and the education and the training that took place there was really excellent. We debuted a couple of new things there. In addition to releasing the latest edition of the advocacy book from our office, we also had two new aspects to our advocacy training. One was a district visit guide along with a district visit demo. And this is our district visit guide that we used for our demonstrations. It talks about the wrong way to answer questions and run a meeting at a district office or a capital office, and the right way to do it. And I think that this method that we used at HFD San Diego was very well received, and it really helped people grasp not only how easy a visit is to make, how smooth it can run, but also how important it is to recognize that legislators and their staff are people, and that we need to engage with them as people and not to be fearful and overwhelmed that we can't do this. It helps to really allow people to see how easy it is, how important it is, but also how real these people are and how they need to hear from us. So I think that was really helpful, and I'm grateful for those volunteers that participated in the demo of doing these visits and how to answer questions right, and how to steer away from certain ways of answering questions and steer towards just building relationships with legislators and their staff. So that was really a really great piece of Homeschool Freedom Day that we will be doing again in the future, and I'm looking forward to that. Another aspect of it was that we had, my wife Betsy actually did a segment of our Homeschool Freedom Day where she talked about what if you can't actually go do a district visit for whatever reason, or maybe you can't go to Capitol Day, but you want to be engaged somehow. What do you do? And she talked about a number of things. We'll be doing an article on this soon about what can you do if you can't go. And she talked about being a sender, and if you can't actually go to an office, which there are legitimate reasons why you can't, maybe you can partner with somebody else to encourage someone else to go and still be involved in advocating for private homeschool freedoms. And so I think that was that one was also well received. We got some great positive feedback on that, things that people said they had never thought of before, and I think that was really helpful. So again, we'll be giving more information out on that in the future. And as far as the recap goes, I wanted to definitely mention that we really appreciated our sponsors, and I'm going to just mention some of them right now. Make sure that I have the latest information on that. So the sponsors that I want to absolutely highlight that helped make Homeschool Freedom Day San Diego happen were Classical Conversations, IPS, which is Institute for Principal Studies, Cedarville University, BJU Press Homeschool, and IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing. I want to say thank you to those sponsors for making our event happen and for allowing us to cover some of the costs to this event. It's definitely something, this Homeschool Freedom Day is an event that we feel is so vital because we're training people to engage in advocacy because we can't do it by ourselves. So we're trying to multiply our efforts by training others to be involved in advocacy. We have 40 million people in California, and so few people are engaged in advocating for private homeschool freedom. So we need more people involved, and these vendors, these sponsors really helped to make this possible at Homeschool Freedom Day San Diego. So thank you so much. Thank you, Classical Conversations. Thank you, IPS, Institute for Principal Studies. Thank you, Cedarville University. And thank you, BJU Press Homeschool. Thank you, IEW. We really appreciate you helping make this happen. Finally, I want to mention one other possible thing that could help you and your family, and that is our government class. We have started teaching a government class, started about a year ago, where we teach in our office government class, and this goes over government and economics, high school level. It's a very rigorous course. We teach it in a little more than one semester. It's August through January, and the reason that I'm doing it in August through January is because after January, things just get so hectic with legislation that I cannot manage to teach a class during that time. But we can do it during August through January, and this is it's an in-person class here, but we are also opening it up to online students as well this coming fall. So if you're interested in that, the focus of this class is to make sure that we cover the basics of high school government, high school economics, but also make sure that students get those subjects from a distinctly Christian worldview and also have a good understanding of how they can personally make a difference in impacting policy in the state of California and in our nation's government. So it's a thorough look at government and economics at the high school level, plus there's how you can personally make a difference in these areas. So check it out on our website. You can visit fpmca.org/class and see information about our government class there. and we'd love to have you join us this fall. It will be available both in person and online. If you're interested in doing it via Zoom, it'll at least be better than just using a textbook if you don't have access to someone actually teaching these things. And again, that focus is going to be on engaging in our state and federal governments. And you will learn specifically how to make a difference. So that's it for today. Thanks so much. We will talk to you again soon. Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Front Line with FPM. For more information about the topics we discuss here, check out Family Protection Ministries at fpmca.org and subscribe to our channel.